When history remembers the fiercest Union soldiers of the American Civil War, few names strike more fear and respect than the Iron Brigade. Known for their discipline, bravery, and unmatched sacrifice, these men earned their place among the most legendary fighting forces in American history. Formed in 1861, the brigade was composed of regiments from the Midwest, primarily Wisconsin, Indiana, and Michigan. The men were farmers, laborers, and clerks who volunteered with fervent patriotism. Their tough, no-nonsense spirit soon became a defining feature of their identity. Originally designated as the Western Brigade, their early camps and drilling took place in Washington, D.C. Unlike Eastern units, they were taller, more rugged, and carried a hardened frontier demeanor. Their presence quickly caught the eye of senior Union commanders impressed by their discipline. Their iconic black Hardee hats distinguished them visually from other Union troops, who wore blue kepis. This dark headgear, worn proudly and without regulation alteration, made them instantly recognizable in battle and eventually became a symbol of their fearlessness and unity. Their first serious test came in the summer of 1862 at the Battle of Gainesville, also known as Brawner's Farm. Though outnumbered, they stood firm against Stonewall Jackson's veterans, earning immediate recognition for their stubborn courage under pressure. It was after this brutal clash that General George B. McClellan reportedly exclaimed, "They must be made of iron." The name stuck. From that day, the Western Brigade was reborn as the Iron Brigade, a title that would follow them through every bloody engagement ahead. The Iron Brigade's birth was not only in name but forged through sweat, discipline, and sacrifice. Their legend had just begun, and the battlefields of America were about to witness the true meaning of iron resolve. As the war escalated, the Iron Brigade was called into action. Distinguished by their black Hardee hats, they marched with a discipline that earned admiration and fear. Their appearance alone commanded respect, but it was their fighting spirit that soon made headlines across the Union. Nicknamed the Black Hats, these men became symbols of resolve. In an era where uniformity often blurred identity, their tall hats and Midwestern swagger stood out. Confederate soldiers began to recognize them on sight, and dread their presence on the battlefield. In September 1862, at the Battle of South Mountain, they were the spearhead of General Hooker's assault. Climbing steep, wooded slopes under fire, they broke Confederate lines. Their tenacity helped open the door to Antietam, but it came at a high human cost. Their march toward glory was not without hardship. Marching long distances on poor rations, sleeping on muddy ground, and enduring disease wore down even the hardiest. Yet their morale rarely wavered, carried by fierce loyalty to each other and belief in the cause. Their strict discipline was legendary. Officers enforced order with precision, and soldiers drilled relentlessly. Unlike many volunteer units, the Iron Brigade was known for following orders exactly, one reason they were repeatedly assigned the most dangerous positions in the line. At Second Bull Run and other early clashes, they became known for holding their ground even when outnumbered. While others broke, the Black Hats stood firm, rifles steady. This reputation wasn't just legend, it was earned in blood and fire, with casualties to prove it. Their fame grew with every march and battle. Newspapers praised their actions, and generals trusted them with critical assignments. The Black Hats had become more than a nickname, they were now the embodiment of courage, sacrifice, and unwavering loyalty to the Union. On September 17, 1862, the Iron Brigade marched into the blood-soaked fields of Antietam, Maryland. It was the Civil War's deadliest day, and for these hardened Midwesterners, it would be their fiercest trial yet, an unforgiving test of resolve, courage, and brutal sacrifice. Their orders were clear: advance into Miller's cornfield. Before dawn, they moved through thick mist, the stalks tall and golden. Within minutes, Confederate fire erupted from the trees. The field became a killing ground, and the Iron Brigade charged straight into hell without hesitation. Volley after volley tore through both lines. Soldiers fell in waves, smoke turned the air gray, and visibility vanished. The cornfield changed hands multiple times that morning. At its heart, the Iron Brigade held their position with grit, suffering more than 40% casualties in the process. The 6th Wisconsin led a direct assault, their regimental colors advancing even as comrades dropped around them. Blood soaked the earth. Commanders shouted orders over musket fire and screams. They broke enemy lines briefly, only to be forced back under a devastating counterattack. By mid-morning, entire companies had been wiped out. General Hooker described the scene as the most murderous combat he had ever witnessed. Yet the Iron Brigade refused to break. Their tattered line stood fast, covering the Union flank as other units faltered. Losses were staggering, over 800 men killed or wounded. But they had slowed the Confederate advance, buying precious time. Their stand in the cornfield became one of the most iconic moments in Civil War history. Newspapers praised their bravery, but the cost was irreversible. Antietam was a baptism by fire. It transformed the Iron Brigade from respected to revered. Scarred, reduced, but unshaken, they walked out of that cornfield as legends. The iron in their name was no longer just a title, it was a reality. On July 1, 1863, the Iron Brigade entered Gettysburg from the west, leading the Union I Corps into what would become the bloodiest battle of the Civil War. Within hours, they faced fierce Confederate attacks and found themselves at the heart of the opening clash. They were the first Union infantry to engage at Gettysburg, confronting General Haight's advancing Confederates. Near Herbst Woods, the Iron Brigade pushed back the enemy with staggering force. Their legendary reputation preceded them, but even they were unprepared for the storm to come. With black Hardee hats gleaming in the sun, they formed battle lines amid woods and fences. Confederate artillery and musket fire tore through the trees. The brigade held firm, repelling wave after wave. Their resistance helped delay the Confederate push toward Cemetery Hill. The 24th Michigan suffered catastrophic losses, around 80% casualties. Yet they did not retreat. Alongside the 2nd and 7th Wisconsin, they fought savagely, each regiment holding its ground inch by inch. Their refusal to break bought critical time for Union reinforcements to arrive. Brigadier General Solomon Meredith, their beloved commander, was badly wounded. Many officers were killed or maimed. The command structure collapsed, but the men still followed their training and instinct. In the chaos, the brigade functioned like a single, battle-hardened body. Eventually, overwhelmed and outflanked, the Iron Brigade was forced to withdraw. But they had inflicted enormous damage and delayed Confederate forces by precious hours. That stand on day one shaped the entire battle's outcome, allowing the Union to form a defensive line. Gettysburg would forever define them. Though shattered in number, their valor at Herbst Woods became a symbol of unshakable resolve. In standing their ground, they helped save the Union position. Their sacrifice echoed across history as one of Gettysburg's most heroic moments. By late 1863, the Iron Brigade was a shadow of its former self. The battles at Antietam and Gettysburg had taken a heavy toll. Thousands were dead or wounded. The fierce, elite unit that once marched with pride now limped forward with broken strength. Reinforcements filled their ranks, but the replacements lacked the hardened edge of the originals. Many veterans were gone, killed, maimed, or discharged. The bond that had made the brigade legendary was weakened, and its identity began to fade in the churn of war. At the Battle of the Wilderness in 1864, the Iron Brigade was sent into chaotic woods where visibility was low and command crumbled. Confusion reigned. Many were cut down by friendly fire or ambushed in the thick underbrush. The brigade's effectiveness diminished rapidly. New leadership failed to match the standard set by early commanders like Meredith. Morale dropped. Fatigue, disease, and psychological strain haunted even the toughest survivors. The Iron Brigade still fought bravely, but the glory was gone, replaced by grim endurance. Strategically, the Union High Command began to use them more cautiously. Their legendary status made losses harder to bear. Some units were reassigned or merged with others. As Grant's brutal overland campaign dragged on, the brigade's battlefield presence quietly shrank. By 1865, the war's end loomed, and the Iron Brigade barely resembled the force it once was. Most original members were gone. The survivors were ghosts of earlier days, scarred, silent, and burdened with the memory of fallen comrades and lost glories. Their decline wasn't a failure, it was a reflection of how much they gave. Their courage remained unquestioned. But like iron forged in fire, they had endured until the metal was nearly consumed. What remained was sacrifice, etched into the soul of the Union victory. Though their numbers dwindled, the legacy of the Iron Brigade endured. Their fierce reputation, forged in blood and fire, became legend. These Midwestern volunteers from farms and towns proved that ordinary men could perform extraordinary feats when bound by duty, discipline, and sheer determination. Veterans returned home scarred, yet proud. Across Wisconsin, Indiana, and Michigan, towns honored their Iron Brigade sons. Monuments were raised, stories passed down. The black Hardee hat became a sacred symbol, worn not just in memory, but as a badge of valor. In military circles, the brigade became a benchmark of discipline and combat effectiveness. West Point instructors cited their actions as examples of bravery and unit cohesion. The U.S. Army would draw upon their legacy when shaping future elite infantry formations. Civil War historians regard them as among the Union's most effective fighting forces. At Antietam and Gettysburg, they held the line when others faltered. Their casualty rates remain among the highest in the war, proof not of weakness, but of unrelenting tenacity. Their story inspired countless authors, painters, and filmmakers. The Iron Brigade was immortalized in books, documentaries, and battlefield reenactments. They became mythic in Civil War memory, figures of defiance, strength, and sacrifice written into the nation's historical fabric. Even today, visitors to Gettysburg and Antietam stop at Iron Brigade memorials to reflect. School groups, veterans, and tourists stand in silence, imagining the thunder of muskets and the cries of the fallen. The fields where they stood remain sacred American ground. The Iron Brigade may have faded from the battlefield, but never from history. Their name lives on, in stone, in stories, and in spirit. They weren't just soldiers, they were the iron heart of a nation struggling to survive. Their memory marches on, forever unbroken. Thanks for watching The Forgotten Past. If you enjoyed the journey, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a hidden story or untold truth. New discoveries await. See you in the next video.